think they learn? To answer that question, you need to compare them with older people. So I set about trying to find out how they think they learn and how adults think they learn, and see if there were any differences. I was very interested in looking at learning theories and finding out if the way that young people think they learn reflected more one of the learning theories than others. I looked at 6 of the most important learning theories: behaviorism, cognitivism, constructivism, experientialism, social and emotional learning, and metacognition. In order to test the theories, I had to put the theories to the children, but I didn't want to lead them and bias their response. So instead of describing different pros and cons of learning theories with their different complexity, I decided to ask the children directly which learning strategies, teaching strategies that they would recognise, such as rewards and detentions and sanctions, would help them learn the best, or in their opinion, help them learn the best. So I looked at each of the learning theories and looked at the most common teaching and learning strategies separately. And I worked out through my research which common teaching strategies reflect which theories. My paper also covers how children's responses compared between year 6s to year 12, and therefore I was able to draw some conclusions about how learning preferences or learning theory preferences change over time. And I presented this finding and in these simple taxonomy charts to show how, for example, in year 6, metacognition was the second preferred strategy. However, at key stage 3, it starts to move down the table. And at key stage 4, it moves up again. Behaviorism, meanwhile, moves down between the 5th and 6th place at all times. Key stage 5, cognitivism and social and emotional were at the top. Finally, I did explore the different types of backgrounds amongst the young people who were in the survey and define those as English as an additional language, because this was particularly relevant to my school context, and found there were differences between pupils who do speak another language at home and pupils who speak English only at home. The pupils who speak an additional language at home and English all both agreed that social and emotional approaches were the best. However, you can see that the people who only speak English at home felt they learnt best through cognitive and metacognitive strategies, whereas the pupils who speak other languages felt they needed to explore and experience the learning, and that became more important to them. People who only speak English put experientialism right at the bottom. I thought this was a reflection of their ability to access the learning within the classroom. I also looked at pupils who don't own a computer, and I used this as a broad definition for pupils who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, which is particularly relevant to my school context. I asked pupils who own a computer and who don't own a computer. And again, there was this very slight difference for the pupils who do not have a computer. They were able to place cognitive strategies slightly higher than social and emotional, because they were able to reflect on the learning, and they relied heavily on processing the learning in their own mind. Children without a computer represented 25% of the respondents. The discussion shows that there were different strategies within each theory that had different values to the learners, but one was able, through the process of analysis, to place the theories in order of preference. That's not to say that different strategies within each theory didn't have their own values outside of that finding. So, for example, fear of failure was shown to be quite an important factor, whereas fear of punishment was constantly dragging behaviourist theories back down the table. Social and emotional learning was the big winner in the research, as young people and adults placed it first overall. Although it was very interesting to find that pupils with no computer were more aware of the importance of cognitive strategies. The limitations of the research were that it was a very small cohort in my case, with 109 respondents to a survey, and also that included 17 adults. So the sample of adults was quite small if you're going to draw conclusions about how adults learn compared to young people. But my main focus was to use that smaller peripheral group to cast a light on the findings of the main group, which were the young people. My final conclusion from my research confirms that enjoyment is learning.